history at the ongoing Cannes Film Festival.
At last,
Find out all about the Bridgerton franchise as the new season of the hit show starts streaming online. And meet the Indian actor-producer duo Rajkumar Rao and Nidhi Hiranandani as they talk about their latest movie, Shrikant. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, on WION at these times.
This week on Melt, all about artificial intelligence and marketing, from ambiguities and challenges to successful implementation examples. And yes, even its impact on your job.
AI is in its very early stages, and we got to be comfortable with the fact that we don't have all the answers right now.
The human element is absolutely essential in ensuring that we are ethical in how we leverage AI.
I actually see AI being able to complement a marketer in helping him or her understand better about the consumer needs.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show today, at least 6 people were killed and many wounded in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza as the Israeli military intensifies its ground assault. Meanwhile, aid deliveries have started arriving in Gaza through a US-built pier. However, the UN has warned that the structure is no substitute for aid supplies through land. We'll of course be tracking that very closely on the show today, but first, a quick check on the headlines. Israel claims a Palestinian militant has been killed in an airstrike it carried out on the Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank. 8 civilians injured. Israel says the compound was used as an operations center by the militants. Even as trucks carrying badly needed aid for the Gaza Strip roll across a newly built pier, heavy fighting in Jabalia to the north and Rafah to the south hinder transportation and supply of aid. Rush to evacuate local residents from villages around Vovchansk on Ukraine's northeastern border, where there's constant shelling by Russia. Russia says it has seized 12 villages in the Kharkiv region last week. North Korean state media releases pictures of what it said was the country's latest ballistic missile test, watched by its leader Kim Jong-un. North Korea had detected the test on Friday. Nearly 1 million homes in Texas and Louisiana states are without power in the aftermath of fierce storms and hurricane-force winds. 4 people reportedly killed. Saudi Arabia stages historic first swimwear fashion show at the Red Sea Fashion Week in the Unmahat Island. It's one of a series of dramatic social reforms in the Islamic country initiated by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Starting the show with our continuous coverage of the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. In the latest airstrike, Israeli army has killed a Palestinian militant in the West Bank. The attack on the Jenin refugee camp also injured 8 people. According to Israeli army, a fighter jet and helicopter conducted the strike targeting a compound used as an operations center by the militants. The armed wing of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group named the killed man as member Islam Qamisieh. Israel said that Qamisieh was responsible for several attacks against Israelis. An Israeli army handout video shows an airstrike on buildings, an explosion and smoke rising. IDF said that the strike was carried out to remove an imminent threat. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that the 8 people wounded are in stable condition and receiving treatment at the hospitals. Meanwhile, Israeli forces continue to battle Hamas fighters in Jabalia in northern Gaza in some of the fiercest engagements since they returned to the area a week ago. Footage released by the Israeli army shows what it says are troops operating in Jabalia in the northern Gaza Strip. Local residents said that the Israeli armor reached as far as the market at the heart of Jabalia, the largest of Gaza's 8 historic refugee camps, where bulldozers demolished homes and shops in the path of the advance. Israeli military said it returned to Jabalia to prevent the Islamist group's regrouping. In southern Gaza, an escalating Israeli assault in Rafah has sent hundreds of thousands of people fleeing, while Hamas militants on Friday attacked tanks that were surrounded the Rafah area, where Israeli tanks and troops have been operating at a military base near the Kerem Shalom crossing. At this crossing, trucks bound for Gaza are held for inspection. Well, images released by Hamas's armed wing, the Qassam Brigades, it shows what they say are fighters targeting Israeli vehicles and soldiers with mortar shells in eastern Rafah. Israel says it must destroy Hamas network in Gaza for the safety of its people, especially after the death of 1,200 people on October 7th, and to free the remaining 128 hostages still held by the militants. So far, at least 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in the ongoing war. Meanwhile, humanitarian aid has begun to arrive in Gaza using a US-made pier. People of Gaza rushed towards trucks carrying aid delivered into the strip. This after Israel came under growing global pressure to allow more supplies into the coastal territory. While its fight against Hamas continues, and there's also looming fear of famine in the region. The White House said that the additional aid from the US was on the way to Cyprus to be loaded onto the ships for delivery into Gaza via the new pier. US President Joe Biden said in a post on X, with the Palestinian people suffering, the need to get increased aid to the most vulnerable has become urgent. He said that the supply of more aid to Gaza by land will also continue. However, the Hamas-run government in Gaza accused Washington of trying to improve its ugly image with the pier. Hamas said that the US pier was not enough to meet the humanitarian needs and demanded greater aid shipments to the territory by land.
Now, so earlier today, I think you all know, the first shipments of humanitarian assistance arrived on the shores of Gaza through the multinational humanitarian maritime corridor that the president announced during his State of the Union address. As we speak, additional aid from the United States and other countries is arriving in Cyprus, where it will be screened by Israeli authorities and loaded onto ships for delivery via the maritime corridor, the temporary pier that we've been talking about. And here you can see trucks just today.
Let's now shift our focus to another war front, our continuous coverage of the Russia-Ukraine war. As Russian troops continue their cross-border offensive into Ukraine's north and northeast, the governor of Kharkiv has said that there has been a record-breaking air raid alert due to the constant shelling by the invading Russian forces in the region. The alert lasted for 16 hours and 33 minutes near the evacuated civilians' gathering point in the Vovchansk direction. Russia launched a renewed offensive in Vovchansk and Lipitsy directions on May 10th. Kharkiv's border communities came under heavy Russian shelling and airstrikes. At least 3 people were killed and 28 others were injured. As many as 6 people, including 4 doctors, 1 civilian and the head of the military administration, sustained serious injuries in Vovchansk.
We had a record-breaking missile alert. It lasted for 16 hours and 33 minutes continuously during the day. And it's not just an alert. It's accompanied by constant attacks.
Well, the situation has been volatile amid the intensifying Russian attacks since the past 2 days. Police say that the entire town has been reduced to rubble. Officers scrambled to evacuate local residents from villages surrounding Vovchansk that came under the constant shelling. 9,000 people were evacuated from frontline and the nearby areas this week as the Russian forces attempted to. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense says that its troops have managed to repel the attacks and are still holding out. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that his troops advancing in Kharkiv region were creating a buffer zone to protect Russian border regions. While capturing the city of Kharkiv itself is not a part of Russia's current plan, that's what Putin has clearly said. Russia's defense ministry announced that its North military grouping has captured nearly 12 settlements since launching the new ground offensive in Kharkiv.
В течение недели подразделения группировки ВОС-Север в результате активных действий освободили 12 населенных пунктов в Харьковской области.
Russia's military claims to have downed more than 100 Ukrainian drones in the Black Sea and the 2014 annexed Crimea. The attack was Ukraine's largest aerial offensive in weeks to slow the Russian advances along the front line. Moscow's defense ministry released footage showing Russian warplanes destroying 6 sea drones in Black Sea. Ukrainian drone raids on Crimea marked Kyiv's attempt to strike back during Moscow's offensive in northeastern Ukraine, as its troops are heavily outnumbered and outgunned.
Только за последние сутки на территории Крыма и Черноморского побережья Краснодарского края сбито 123 украинских беспилотных летательных аппарата самолетного типа. Силами Черноморского флота за прошедшие сутки в акватории Черного моря уничтожено 25 украинских безэкипажных катеров.
Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, also came under the attack of Russian guided bombs that killed at least 3 and injured 28. Well, according to the regional governor, these attacks intensified in the last week and are targeted at the civilian and energy infrastructure. Moscow, however, denies purposely targeting civilians in the ongoing war. Meanwhile, starting May 18th, Ukraine will lift a temporary ban that was imposed on consular services for military-aged men living abroad. Hundreds of thousands of military-aged Ukrainian men are living abroad while the country faces an acute shortage of troops to help it defend itself against Russia's full-scale invasion. In other global news, 4 people were killed, including 3 Spanish tourists and an Afghan civilian in a shooting attack in Afghanistan's central Bamiyan province. Officials say 4 suspects have been arrested and an investigation is currently underway. According to the Taliban's Interior Ministry, 7 other people, including 4 foreign nationals, were also wounded in the attack. But as of now, nobody has claimed responsibility for the attack.
There was shooting against civilians in Bamiyan city, including 1 Afghan. 3 foreign nationals were killed. Also, including 3 Afghans, 4 foreign nationals were wounded. The security forces have started to find the killers. 4 people have been arrested regarding this incident.
Taking to X, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said, and I'm quoting him here, "I'm overwhelmed by the news of the murder of Spanish tourists in Afghanistan. I'm closely following the situation. The Emergency Counselor Unit of the Spanish Foreign Ministry is working to offer all required help. I want to convey all my sympathy to their family and friends." Now, the area where the attack took place is in the mountainous Bamiyan, is home to a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Since taking over Afghanistan in 2021, the Taliban vowed to restore security and encourage tourists into the country. However, the latest attack on Friday is among the most serious, targeting foreign nationals since the Taliban took over. US President Joe Biden is focusing big on the African-American voter in his campaign as he looks to seal up cracks that carried him to victory over Republican Donald Trump in 2020. On a campaign visit to the popular African-American Museum in downtown Washington, the US President greeted his audience declaring, "Black history is American history."
And by the way, I want to thank the staff who runs this place. They do an incredible job. Together, the NAACP and this museum are monuments to the power of Black history. And Black history is American history. It's American.
Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris later will meet with the Divine Nine. It is a group of historically Black sororities privately at the White House. Biden met with families who had relatives involved in the Supreme Court's landmark May 17, 1954 Brown versus Board of Education ruling 70 years ago that led to the desegregation of schools. The Topeka, Kansas case, Brown versus Board of Education, determined that separating children in schools by race was unconstitutional.
After Brown versus Board decision, the public schools gradually and often much too slowly were integrated. Graduation rates for Black and Latino students increased significantly, though. The Brown decision proves a simple idea. We learn better when we learn together.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump received a break from his appearances at a New York court amid the ongoing hush money trial to see his son and youngest child, Barron Trump, graduate from Oxbridge Academy. Trump is also looking to appeal to Black voters. A new poll released early this week found Trump winning 20% of the Black vote, a sign that he has made inroads into a block of voters who have voted for Democrats in the past. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
President Biden is making a concerted effort to win back the hearts and minds of Black voters, a crucial demographic for the Democrats, as polling shows a lack of enthusiasm among Black voters, notably Black men in battleground states who voted for Biden in 2020. And so this weekend, the president plans to deliver the commencement address at Morehouse College, which is a prestigious, historically Black college. He's also delivering a speech at an NAACP chapter in Detroit. However, the Trump campaign is pushing back, saying that Biden's policies have only hurt the Black community, as more and more Blacks and Hispanic voters are looking towards the former president. Meanwhile, voters in Michigan say that Biden has taken their vote for granted, not only Muslim Americans, but Black voters as well, with the first presidential debate being in Atlanta, Georgia, with 33% of voters being Black. All eyes will be on that debate. Susan Tehrani reporting From New York, for WION, World is One.
Moving on, at least 4 people are dead and nearly 1 million others were left without power after intense thunderstorms swept through Texas on Thursday night. Our next report gets you the details. Take a look.
Close to 1 million homes and businesses were without power on Friday after deadly storms packing hurricane-force winds pummeled parts of Texas, Louisiana, and other Gulf Coast states. At least 4 people were killed in the severe thunderstorms. Windows were blown out of high-rise buildings in downtown Houston, and streets were flooded due to the heavy overnight rainfall. In Katy, a town just west of Houston, muddy brown water swamped a residential neighborhood, and trees swayed furiously in hurricane-force winds. Some Houston residents packed into a Costco grocery store to take shelter from the storm. Store workers brought down shutters and were heard asking customers to move to the center of the store.
All members, please go to the middle of the store.
Much of the region was plunged into darkness after the storms, and more than 890,000 homes and businesses were still without power as of Friday morning, according to data from poweroutage.us.
On the world of sports now, reigning champion Alexander Zverev is just 1 win away from lifting his second Italian Open title. The German ended the dream run of Alejandro Tabio in the semi-finals with a hard-fought victory. Well, let's now see what's making news in the world of showbiz. Well, there's some good news for all Paul McCartney fans. According to the Sunday Times Rich List, the singer has become UK's first billionaire musician. The 81-year-old's fortune was strengthened by strong touring, a valuable back catalogue, and even a little help from Beyonce, who covered the Beatles song Blackbird, one of the most successful composers and performers of all time. McCartney is known for his approach to bass playing and versatile and wide tenor vocal range, and also his musical eclecticism. From one musician to another, Grammy-winning singer Billie Eilish has debuted her third studio album titled Hit Me Hard and Soft. The album contains 10 tracks and runs for 43 minutes. Eilish has previously won acclaim and multiple Grammys for her breakout album When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And its equally celebrated follow-up Happier Than Ever. The new album continues the pop sensation's creative collaboration with her brother. Meanwhile, Daisy Ridley premiered her latest movie, Young Woman and the Sea, in Los Angeles. She was joined at the event, surrounded by a pool and water fountains, by co-stars Kim Bodnia, Telda Cobham-Hervey, Janet Hen, and director Joachim Ronning. The drama tells the story of competitive swimmer Trudy Edler, who in 1926 was the first woman to ever swim across the English Channel. The movie will hit screens in the US on May 31st. Well, a decade back, all Saudi Arabia knew was that women were to wear head-to-toe coverings. Well, things have changed. The country staged a historic swimwear fashion show on Friday, part of a series of dramatic reforms brought in by its Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. We leave you with the visuals and this report as we call it a wrap in this edition of World DNA. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is Fun. Stay tuned.